Hello, I'm Ian, and this is Somerset News Network. I'm raising the colours. It's our flag. It's our nation's flag. St George's flag for England, Union Jack for the United Kingdom. It's the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. People are putting flags up all over the place. They've even put the flags up in my village. I couldn't believe it. A guy said, I'm putting flags up, who's going to come and help me? Saturday before last. This last weekend, you can't make this up. Somebody put on my local forum, I'm going to take the flags down, who's going to help me? And nobody turned up. More people agree with it, which I call the silent majority. They might not say anything on social media. They might not go on marches. But they agree with us. I use YouTube and I use Facebook. I know there's TikTok and Instagram and all that, but I can't get into all of them. All I do is this channel and my Country Sports TV channel, where I do my shooting and fishing and all things like that. So this is my speech, what I think. And I think we're under tyranny of a Labour government under Starmer. That's why I fly the flag. We've put Tommy Robinson in prison. You listen to what Tommy Robinson has said, or read what he said. And I don't disagree with any of it. Don't quite like the way he went about it. But that's a personality clash. If you listen to what he says, he is trying to save the kids from rape gangs. That's it. What are these demonstrations now outside of illegal migrant hotels doing? Trying to save the kids. It's all it's for. The government, we're told, has won its court case, its appeal, to allow the asylum hotels to stay open. You know, the judiciary is so corrupt, it's unbelievable. I expect they're all Starmer's friend in the Funny Handshake Club. Can't trust them one iota to do the right thing. Anyway, that's enough of my tales of woe. What I want to talk about today is there's lots of talk about Rachel from Accounts. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Right? Yeah, I know it's hard to believe that Rachel from Accounts can live in number 11 and be the Chancellor of the country. Yeah, I know she's got no qualifications. You know, but she's there and we got to deal with it. Right? But she is using the civil service to do the bidding of Starmer. Starmer is acting like a dictator, like he's got the divine right of kings. And I've been through all that before. But we're under a tyranny of this Labour government under Starmer. That's why I fly the flag. Right, now then, taxes. Now I've had to make some notes. I don't know what's going on. There's no specific figures being announced. All they've said is they're looking at hiring taxes. They're looking at inheritance tax. And when we know they had a go at the farmers and put a farm that's over £1 million into the heritage tax bracket, so you'd have to pay tax on it. Now, are they going to lower that to people with homes of, say, over £500,000, maybe. I don't know. I'm only making assumptions here. When you're talking about taxes and money, you shouldn't make predictions. But I'm just saying ifs and buts here. They're calling these raised taxes reform taxes or tax reform. Now, is that a take away from Farage's reform? More than likely. It's a phrase that's come up 2 or 3 times on videos I've watched this morning. I've watched a lot of commentators, and they're saying it, but they're not putting, as I say, the meat on the bones. All we got is a skeleton of wishful thinking of what they want to do. They might hire national insurance. They're thinking of putting national insurance onto people who own property that rent them out. So not only will you pay tax on your rent, which they're doing now, they will also pay national insurance on top of that. So that's more taxes. Therefore, rented accommodation is going to have to go up, so the people that have got the property are still making the same sort of money. It's just the way business works. Not that they've got the money and going to spend it and give people jobs, but it's going to increase rental accommodation. They're also taking on lots of accommodation for these asylum seekers. So that may slow down because they've been told that the hotels are now legal. Oh, give me a break. It won't stop the demonstrations. And if I was fitter and I had the time to go and do it, I'd be with them. I tell you. Oh, the migrant hotel we had locally here, which was an old Holiday Inn by Bristol Airport, became an illegal asylum seeker hotel. I think the people that own it stopped the contract and has turned it back into a hotel for holiday makers, because Bristol Airport has now expanded and they need overnight accommodation for people that are taking early flights out or coming back and want to spend a night before they move on. So it's now back to being a hotel. I just thought I'd tell you that. But Jacob Rees-Mogg has found that the Winford Hotel between Winford and Chumagna in his old constituency is now an illegal migrant hotel with security guards. And he only filmed from the road and couldn't get anywhere near it, couldn't get any questions out of him. You know? So there you go. Right. Higher national insurance. Now I don't know if that's going to be what's already been done, because they put national insurance up for people who are employed, and I don't know. They put the employers' national insurance up last year. Now, I don't know if they're going to put that up again. It's all this is unclear, right? They're thinking about taxing energy companies. Now, in life, if you're a government, there's certain things that you don't tax. And the government, over the years, that sort of unwritten agreement, contract the government has with the people has broken down. It's been under the Conservatives and it's been under Labour over the years. And they've slowly crept away. Now, there used to be no VAT on fuel. Coal, gas, electric. So when we joined the EU said you've got to put VAT on coal. So there was a minimum 5% VAT on coal, and it's still there. It's never been taken off. But that was one of the fundamental things you don't do. The things you need for life were never taxed. Food was never taxed. They taxed your fuel for the car because it made money. And they found it was a good idea. They taxed tobacco. But the fuel tax ought to be lowered so people can afford to drive. I used to work in Cirencester, which is 60 miles there, and it's 60 miles back. It's 120 miles a day. I couldn't afford to drive to Cirencester every day now and go to work because of the cost of fuel. It would just make it uneconomical. I was spending 25% of my income on getting to work. So when I became self-employed in Cirencester, I went in for 4 days a week and I worked as long as I could. So the shop was there from 9 till 5. But they normally stayed until 6 anyway in the shop to change things around, didn't they? So I used to go in at 8 and maybe stay when they locked up, maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock, and then come home. And I'd do that for 4 days, so then I cut a day's cost of fuel out. That was the only way I could be self-employed in Cirencester. I couldn't do it now with the price of fuel now. You know, let's suggest I got a list here. I made a little list. Oh, they announced that they want to tax the wealthy. Well, that's standard Labour policy anyway. You've got money, we want it. You know, supposed to be distribution, but I don't think it's going to be distribution. Oh, Rachel from accounting says we got a 50 billion pound black hole. Well, last July, when Labour took power, won the election and took power, they told us there was a 20 billion black hole left over from the Conservatives, and they were going to do better. They were going to get rid of the black hole. Well, in a year, they've created 30 billion more. The Conservatives had 4 years, and it was only 20 billion. Labour's added 30 billion to the black hole. And they're in the sugar. I'd say shit, but this is YouTube and I don't want to use language like that. So, Rachel Reeves is in real trouble. So what are they going to do? They're going to tax you and me. They're going to squeeze you as much money as they can out of you. And if you've been frugal and you've worked for all your life like I have, and you've got an ISA, I got a small ISA, it's not a lot, but they reckon they're going to tax that as well. Not only on the profit when you take the ISA out, but the money that you put in. So the money that I've already paid me tax on, that I worked for 50 years for, they're now going to tax a second time. So if I had £100 wages and I paid 20% tax, that's only worth £80. Now I put that in an ISA and I get that back. They're going to take 160 quid. So it's going to be, that £100 is worth 80 quid on an ISA. Yes, I'm going to make a dividend on it, but I'm going to have it won't be a lot. It'll only be about 10%. Yeah, my ISA is making 10%. Good, eh? You know, in a bad year it makes 8%. But at the moment it's averaging 10%, which I think is quite good. Better than put it in a bank and I just reinvest it. I just keep it going. Because if I take it out, I'm going to have to pay tax on it. You know, so that £100 is now worth 80 quid. So now you take the 80 quid out. Yeah, you've made some money on it in your dividends, but you've paid tax on that as well. But they're now going to tax that, say 5%. You know, which is another 4 quid. And now that 80 quid is now only worth 76 quid. I had £100 when it started. Do you see how it works? The government just takes, and then it spends it on what it wants to do. Look how much money it's spending on these illegal immigrants that never should be here in the first place. That's controversial. Never mind. Said it now. I'll edit that bit out. I'll edit that bit out. Don't worry. I'll edit that bit out. Like hell will I. Right. House taxes. They are going to tax you. Now, I'm not sure. Some people are saying they're going to scrap the council tax and tax the council tax on a property tax 5% of the value of the house. Now, they're talking about it being houses over 500,000. Well, that's going to be half the houses in this village. You know, 4 and 5 bedroom houses, they're fetching 500, 600,000 now. So half the homes in this village are going to have to pay 5% a year tax. They might not have to pay. We're not sure how that's going to affect council tax, but the spokesman that was trying to explain it said that it's going to replace council tax. But houses under 500,000 will still be paying council tax. But I'm thinking, hang on a minute. We're paying council tax, and we're paying tax on a band system. So you're either A, B, C, D, E, F, and it goes down. And the higher the letter you are, the more you pay. So it's being done and banded anyway. So all they're going to do is scrap council tax, giving it direct to the council, and give it direct to Rachel from accounts. You know, so you won't be paying your council any tax, therefore they won't need as much staff, therefore they can save money. Maybe? Don't know. I'm only thinking about that. Savings and pensions. Rachel Reeves, you know, they said that they were going to attack the wealthy. Hang on, I've got something falling off there a minute. Well, it could be your savings and your pension. Now, I'm already paying tax on my pension. I got a small independent pension, and I pay 20% on it. And that's every month. And if I have a loss in a year, because I'm self-employed, if I have a loss, I get a tax refund. But like I said, last year, I had to pay £750 tax. Therefore, I don't get any refund this year. Which means my pension, my private pension, has gone down. I'm earning less money from that. And I figured it out. Now, this is my thinking. If you've got a £12,500 personal tax allowance that you don't pay tax on your income, when they give you your pension, that was your money that you gave the government to give you an income that you've already paid tax on. No, you didn't pay tax on your pension fund, did you, that went to the government? That was tax-free. But now they're giving you the money back, and they don't tax you on that money, but what they do is take it off your personal allowance. So technically, that money, that money you get from the state, is now being taxed because it's cast as income. So roundabout, they're taxing you for your pension. So you're getting 20% less of that than you should have. It ain't right. It just ain't right. Now, this is an odd one. They're saying that homeowners, your actual tax bill, they're talking about £82,000 a year. Now, a couple of people mentioned this. Now, I don't know where they get that from. I don't know if that's the wealthy, if it's, houses over £1 million or income. They said on average, the tax burden will be £82,000 a year. The average tax bill. Obviously, people that aren't earning any money aren't going to be paying tax anyway. But it means the people that are earning money are going to be paying more. Therefore, they're going to have less money to go out to pubs and have a meal, to buy a better car, to go on holidays, or more expensive holidays. So they cut back because they haven't got as much income as they have. But the government, they're not like me and you. If they haven't got the money, they don't say, well, hang on a minute, we can't spend the money, we haven't got it. We can't do that because we haven't got enough money. I've been there. I was asked to go to the States and I couldn't go because I didn't have enough money. I saved up the money and I did go. I made 2 trips to the States. But you go to what you can afford. You save up and do things. The government, Rachel Reeves from account, thinks that she's got all our money. And if she spends it all, God knows where it's going, then all she's got to do is tax us more. This is what tyrants did in the Middle Ages. King John did it. King John was fighting wars. I think he fought against the French for Brittany and lost. So the barons took King John to Runnymede and made him sign the Magna Carta, rights and liberties of the subject. Some of the commentators say that was Alfred the Great went round the country and found out what the common law was. We need a Runnymede. We need to get Starmer into Runnymede and make him sign a declaration to uphold our rights and liberties that we already have. He's supposed to be a human rights lawyer. Like, is he sugar? I didn't say it then, did I? Oh, and also, we still have PIP, Personal Independence Allowance, or Personal Independent Payments. I get PIP because I'm now disabled. I got arthritis in both hips. I get the minimum amount, I think it's £54 a week. But because I'm now in a wheelchair when I go out, I may be worth more, or that may be of greater value to me, which I'm looking at. But that's now going to be taxed, because it'd be classed as income. So if they give me £100 a week, I'm only surmising, it's now only going to be worth 80 quid. This is the way the tyranny works. And we can't stand it. That's why we're marching. They tried to stop the Freedom March on September the 13th. I would have loved to have gone to London. They actually went to court to try and stop it. They used the usual excuse that it'd be far-right thugs and all this sort of thing. But there's been no trouble at any of the others. Yet they allow the Palestinian marches every Saturday in London. Even when there's other marches on, the Palestinians are marching. The Jewish community wanted to demonstrate, and they were told to take down the Israeli flag because it would upset the Palestinian march. It's craziness. You know, people have been asked to take down the St. George's flag when it's our nation's flag. It flies on the tower, on the church, on the steeple. Are they going to stop the Church of England flying the cross of St. George? This is how crazy this tyranny is getting. That's why I wear my new t-shirt, why I've put the flag up, and we've all got to do it. You don't need to go screaming and shouting and throwing rocks at the police, which I want to stop. I'm against any violence whatsoever. We can win. All we've got to do is keep the pressure on. We've all got to stand together. It's Paul McCartney did a song, we all stand together. Yes, horrible singing, but never mind. Frog song, wasn't it? Yeah. Isn't it funny how you remember things? You know, you get your cogs work in your brain. I know you can see it working, yeah. Not very many cogs in my case, but anyway. We don't know what's happening. All we know is things are going to be a lot more expensive. The housing market is going to crash. The economy is going to crash. And the question is, how long before Rachel from accounts is going to have to go to the IMF and borrow money? I would say we're quite close. I thought it was going to be before last Christmas. It might be definitely before this Christmas. But we wait and see. And if they do go to the IMF, house prices will collapse. Prices in the shops will go up. And we will have to pay more taxes, whatever happens. Anyway, Ian, I'm sorry I haven't got any good news. But Somerset News Network signing off. Bye bye for now.